Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. It was great. We'll see you guys next week.
We should do this more often.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Casual conversation.
Yes.
Because here's the deal. I'm not looking for a versus.
I don't think
I'm
it's
not
fair
looking
to
for
do. Yeah, no,
head-to-head.
Exactly. No,
Fight
exactly.
for blood. Hey everybody, welcome to a very casual conversation about some folding phones. One part of this conversation is happening here on my channel, where TK has been kind enough to drop by and chat about a phone that I have a little less experience with. And then I'm going to go and join him on his channel to talk about a different phone that he's had a little less experience with. We've been having a lot of really fun experiences test driving the OnePlus Open.
Yeah.
And you have spent more time with the Galaxy Z Fold.
The Z Fold 5, yes. Well, actually,
all of the
Z Fold, yeah, since the original inception.
I'm not the biggest Samsung fan, but I've been a little disappointed with some of the productivity conversations about Android in general.
Okay.
And I've also been a little concerned about some of the marketing on folding phones, but that's one of the areas that I think Samsung is actually doing the best work.
Marketing, definitely. Yep.
Is not just, hey, here's the product, but they're making their ads fit the use case of the product, as opposed to, this is a magical butterfly that's floating in nebulous space and hands don't even need to open it.
Nope. No, yeah.
I feel like Samsung has been giving us the most practical, like, hey, I'm going to sit down at my desk and open this fold and do something on it style of conversation. So I kind of wanted to get your sense. You started the year out with some of the Galaxy gear. You've spent some time with the Z Fold 5. How does that productivity conversation work out for you when you're using that with your SIM card?
So the progression, I would probably say, is the progression of Z Fold since the inception has been basically progressively getting more and more powerful and more functional. The battery capacity, the camera stack, all of the functions that we have in there have improved. What I'm enjoying the most with the Z Fold 5 over previous generation, believe it or not, is actually kind of the accessories that come with it.
Really?
And that's because they finally implemented a way to give me S Pen access when I'm actually able to use it and not have to worry about carrying a bulky case. The Z Fold 4 is great, but all the cases
I did not like the Z Fold 4 case.
Yeah, no, it was essentially what ended up happening is you'll get a case that has either a little case or a little silo sitting on the side, which made the case bigger and made it bulkier. So that was the first thing that struck me about this, is that the case for it, the Samsung made case, more specifically that I'm referring to. And then when you take that into conversation with the better performance with the Gen 2, the better overall battery life, it's a massive improvement over what we saw last year because of those internals. I actually enjoy the productivity level. You're able to use it as just a standard phone, the way you want to use it. You want to open it up, use the S Pen, and start basically going, write a jog, draw, do some functional work. Prop it up, use it in more of a, kind of a tabletop tripod experience. Shoot the camera, become more of an editor or a creator there. Edit your content on it, and then produce it, and then obviously upload it.
It's a soup to nuts kind of device. I feel like one of my concerns going from Z Fold 4 to Z Fold 5. So we saw that iteration. It wasn't so much that the Z Fold 4 was a revolution over the Z Fold 3, but it showed iteration over the Fold 3 and improvement over the Galaxy S of that same year.
A little bit of improvement, yeah.
And I felt like, okay, that's actually kind of a compelling story for this price, this worth itness, right? We try to quantify this stuff as reviewers. I've been a little concerned about Z Fold 5, iterative, still an improvement over the Z Fold 4. I enjoyed just kind of holding it and playing around with it for a little while. Like, I see some of those benefits, even though they're very subtle. I don't feel like Samsung has made the same improvement over Galaxy S in the same model year, because we obviously have a different conversation happening with the silicon industry. So
there's a difference,
when you're out and about, have you found that pocketability is swaying you from the multi-device strategy?
Overall, I'll say that I haven't. Well, actually, I take that back. I still do, when I'm traveling, I still do bring a tablet with me. Although I'm carrying multiple, I'm not going to say
we're always carrying. I know I'm saying, like, what's your one device? That's a lot.
No, that's a lot.
We always have multiple devices.
But like for extended duration, for long trips and so on, I still bring a tablet. Not because I need a tablet to do multitasking. It's mostly for media consumption.
Right.
I want to have my own movies. I'd like to have the biggest display I can. Have I ever used a tablet for the productivity that, let's say, an iPad or some of the stylus?
And you're under oath, so have you ever used a tablet for that kind of usage?
Absolutely not. No. And I say this because it's, to me, the function is, if I need something that big, I might as well just bring my laptop.
Gotcha.
And I look at the Z Fold and I look at the, obviously with the OnePlus with the Open and all the different foldables, it's kind of a stopgap solution, right? If I need something that
It's a medium space, yeah.
it's a medium space, right? I can get the phone, I'm opening it up. Now, it's not the size of my display, but desktop mode or using desktop mode on Chrome or in the ability of launching different applications the way I want them makes it so that I don't have to go to the tablet side. So yes, it stopped me from having to use a tablet with me all the time.
For me, it's the airplane tray argument.
There's also that limitation.
I want to be able to work in kind of any situation, and I've been the guy who, like, since my LG V20 is right down there,
So
I
yes,
would
LG
split
V20
screen
right
on
Like I could tell where the
Right,
LG
it's like
V20 is.
it's
He's
right-
pointing,
it's
and
right
I'm
there.
like, I agree.
This half of the shelf is LG. Still.
Actually, I know that's an LG.
Yeah, that's the
no,
G4.
that is a G4. Sorry, that leatherback will always there, right there.
The productivity conversation as it pertains to DeX, as it having a desktop mode, proper video output, I don't feel Samsung has really capitalized on what makes their products unique. Has that been something? Because I know some of your family members are also now starting to use some foldables and stuff like that.
Yes, my brother is a fully foldable convert. He is actually
He's fully folded.
He's fully folded and not open yet, but he's definitely folded. He wanted to go to the Open initially because I've been kind of teasing him with it, but he's actually on the Z Fold 5 as well. So he went. I gave him my 4, and the 5 upgrade was so enticing because of Samsung.
Sure, the trade-in deals and stuff like that. Yeah,
1,200 for the 4. He couldn't pass it off.
That's pretty solid. Has that swayed any of his opinion on why he chooses the phone brand that he does? I just feel like this is such a huge opportunity for a company to say, we offer something that almost no one else does.
Yeah.
And it's still one of the defining differences for all of the flack that Samsung has caught in following some of Apple's business moves. Apple ain't going to do that.
No, absolutely. And I think from my brother's point of view, he's been a OnePlus fan for the longest time, and he really wanted a OnePlus foldable. And he still hasn't had a chance to play with it, but that may also sway him in next year's version, or depending, because he just got the 5, and as you know, in typical, most people don't switch phones as fast as we do, but yes, it is something that he's enjoying at this point. He doesn't use the S Pen as much as he thought he was going to, because I always kind of like hype it up, but he does have the similar case, I think a different color, so he has it if he needs it for a contract signing and so on.
So in holding this case, like, it makes so little impact.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So you might as well have it for when you need it, as opposed to, oh, I wish I had my pen with me because I didn't want to have the big bulky case on the phone.
That's been my case for
that. This is so much nicer than my time with the Z Fold 4.
Yeah.
I've made a point out of saying that OnePlus Open is currently the best of everything that OnePlus can do.
Yes, I agree.
There aren't any compromises here when we look at the OnePlus ecosystem. It's more storage than their phone or tablet. It's better performance, surprisingly, than even the OnePlus 11.
Yeah.
But we can't quite say the same thing about the Z Fold 5.
No, absolutely not. Prior to 2023, Samsung hasn't really had any competition in the US.
No.
Internationally, I know there's other devices that are released, and that story is different, but more specifically in the US, we haven't had that competition between Samsung and other companies.
Right.
So the iterations that we've seen have been very minimal. In the Z Fold 4, they introduced us to the 50 megapixel camera, the primary sensor, and that actually changed the game. That was a big change. They carried it to the 5, and that was the really where when you said when it's iterative from the even from the 3, the concern is yes, it's a great main camera, but that's it.
Yeah.
You jump into the ultra wide, you lose quality.
okay.
Yeah, and you try to do other things with it, it makes you want to go to a full-fledged device. So I'll say that I would be basically taking more casual shots with the Z Fold 5, but even though it has a really good 50 megapixel, I didn't really rely on it. I still relied on another device for my photography, because I looked at this as more of a content consumption creation, but more on the editing side, not creating using it.
Doing all the video.
Absolutely. Some of the...
It's funny. It's like, I really feel like that could be a podcaster's dream phone.
Absolutely.
Mobile podcasting, you're probably only, if you do a video podcast and you've got a locked off shot, you're probably going to be working from that main sensor anyway. Your ability to route audio and then go to a desktop style environment to get your editing done, upload, get all that set, have the S Pen to work on your thumbnails,
all of the things that you want to do.
But maybe not the vlogger or the video producer.
The camera department has been one of the main areas of the Z Fold series that's been somewhat of a compromise. And I say a compromise because it's that's where Samsung decided to tailor the experience.
Right.
Right? They give us the latest SoC, the RAM, the storage. There's compatible, obviously different sizes and so on. But typically the Fold always had more RAM and more storage than some of the other devices.
Sure.
But then when we look at the internal camera, the inside camera under display, they chose to go with a 4 megapixel camera. Not going to be the quality that you want unless you really have to use that internal display. The external camera, that's pretty decent. You can shoot 4K out of it. The main 50 is going to give you the best video.
Sure.
But once you say something to somebody where you say, okay, this is a great phone, but to get the best experience, stick to that main sensor, that tells you there's a compromise.
Yeah.
Where if I look at it as something like the Fold, like the Open, where we say we're talking about basically OnePlus and their ecosystem, you're going to get a good experience regardless. And that telephoto lens here, that is really,
It's really solid.
to take images. I'll say this: I enjoy shooting with the 3x telephoto more than the primary sensor because of that depth of field, just to give a little bit more creative
It
shots.
compresses in on your subject better.
And it expands the background, so you just get that nice.
It's really lovely.
Yeah.
And it's been better than I was expecting in indoor conditions.
Yeah.
So that's always been my favorite thing about Pixels and Xiaomi. You can indoor candid photo
Absolutely.
from these telephotos, and I think OnePlus has finally arrived at something that is competitive.
Oh, absolutely.
With that kind. And I can't rely on Samsung telephotos in mixed indoor lighting.
Not
or
on the
at night.
not on the Fold. Definitely for the S series, I feel like the S may get a little
The
bit
S
better.
Ultra, but not the S23 or S23 Plus, because we're still using those same smaller sensors. And to me, it's like it fractures the conversation. It's hard to say, oh, Samsung, and you can do this. I mean, I'm at the park and I'm seeing parents, like I put this phone in their hands, and if they're messing with the camera, they just start sort of randomly like pinch zooming.
Always pinches.
That's what they're used to. And then they're like, oh, but that's not as good. And you're like, pinch zoom out a little bit further. And then you see the pop of it switching to another sensor and like, oh, that got real good. But now that we've been using this, it's a little bit lighter. The Open has a more traditional front-facing display that looks more like a regular phone. If
It not only works,
I can unlock it. I don't know
it
if I have
functions
my
and it
finger.
works and it looks like a regular phone, and you're able to reach the other side. That's
Your
the
thumb
key.
goes from here
to the other
here,
side. You're like, how can
and from
that?
here to here.
It is absolutely refreshing to. So, and I'm not trying to. Again, this isn't a competition, but Samsung's design has stuck to the narrow display for so long.
Yeah.
We've seen improvements. It got a little bit wider, I think, at the Z Fold 3. But there's a form factor functionality that I appreciate about the Open. You almost don't have to open, no pun intended. You almost don't have to open it unless you really need the external display, the internal display, because it really just gives you everything you want out of your standard, glowing rectangle,
Or
16 by 9.
well, glowing square.
Square.
On the OnePlus Open.
Okay.
Now that we've kind of experienced both, it is my assertion, and I don't know how strongly you might agree or disagree with this. When you're out and about, most of your use is going to be traditional style phone use.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you really need to be careful when you take that time to sit and open the plastic screen.
You're not going to be that dude that does this, that opens the phone and runs, okay, honey.
Oh, do the video.
Do
It was like I'm holding my breath to do that one selfie with that out. Seeing this experience, it's very familiar. It's very phone-like. I've put it in people's hands and they don't notice immediately
that it's even a foldable.
It's even a foldable. Where do you think Samsung goes next? Even since my days of using the Duo, I still feel like the hinge is 90 degrees wrong on the Z Fold.
It's always been open. Oops, almost lost it. Open turn has been the
How you
configuration.
just go to
No,
it, yeah.
absolutely, because that's the right orientation, and you end up having the crease right across the display.
Right.
And we talked about this before.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I'll probably say is.
But do you think Samsung makes an adjustment? Because we've been
I think
hearing
Samsung
these
is going.
rumors.
Well, no. So I think what's happening is, and what we've seen from Samsung in the past, we've seen rumors and we've seen leaks of different variations of the Z Fold. I think at last year's CES, there was some creators. I wasn't one of them, unfortunately, that got access to a Z Fold that had a built-in silo for an S Pen, and it was also wider.
Yeah.
So the form. I'll say this. Samsung makes displays. It is obviously, it did not pass them that they could make a phone that's wider.
Sure.
They stuck to it because they haven't heard from anybody, or they haven't seen that people have wanted others, because sales are typically average for them. Foldables are not going to be the
Well, they're making, like, the foldable market is dominated by flips.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's because the reality is
The more familiar phone.
it's more familiar.
Yeah.
It opens up to becoming like your regular size phone. Samsung has a lot of in the back pocket type of conversations talking about displays. My hope is now with the fact that we have the Open, with the fact that we have the Fold from Pixel in the US market at least, that they're going to start shifting into trying to give us a different experience.
Okay.
Realizing I feel like that the form factor is give us a phone that functions like a regular phone on the outside.
Yeah.
And when we need to be power users and jump into that experience.
That's where I feel is
And I think that's the biggest thing with it.
Yeah.
90% of the time with the Fold, I will say that I've always had the opportunity to use it. I always like to open it up.
Right.
And it's because
And I don't have that same feeling with the
yeah,
Open.
but it's weird. It's like, okay, so it doesn't initially it doesn't look very ominous because you're like, well, it's a big phone, TK. What's wrong? When I put my thumb against the display and you see that it basically about 3.5 thumbs of my hand.
And we're Sony Xperia fans.
Yeah, no,
and this
absolutely.
is really skinny.
Exactly. You realize very quickly the keyboard compresses very much, and it becomes very much of a cramped experience.
Yeah.
And it kind of forces you to.
Don't you feel like swipe typing really hasn't evolved to the point where I can get through more than a couple words, like in a reply to a text?
Not even swipe, dude. I want what Google's been doing with on-device voice recognition.
Yeah, that's
it is so good on this that I never have to even use swipe. But till we get to that point, I feel like with the Fold, it's more of I always have to open it. Where again, I no pun intended with that one. On the OnePlus Open,
they're going to happen.
Yeah, as much as I love to open it, it is going to be basically a purpose action for me. It isn't going to be forced because I can't do what I need to do on the external display. So out and about, I think the OnePlus Open works really nice and it has a lot of cool features. We talk software-wise and development. Although this is great, I feel like Samsung has a lot more to kind of showcase. And we want to be able to see those other things.
This isn't the versus, it's not the fight for blood, but I still want to leave off with a bit of a conclusion, and I wonder how much you'd agree with me on this. With my very limited use of the Z Fold 5 this year, I would put that up as the better productivity tablet. And especially when we're talking document work, when we're talking about sitting to edit something, when we're really trying to sort of split screen and then go into a desktop style environment.
Absolutely.
Dex is always going to be that crown jewel feature that I'm still totally gutted that Samsung isn't making commercials just about Dex.
And they stopped even making Dex accessories. They used to make it into this whole, I mean, not to say that you really need accessories, but specific things to showcase the fact that they're literally the only manufacturer in the US right now that's offering a desktop-like experience. I think Moto does a decent job, but Moto isn't trying to compete in this form factor.
No.
They're going with the Flip.
And we're sticking with these mini tablets here. With Z Fold 5 still being my crown jewel productivity option, and crown jewel like with an adequate amount of storage, this is one of the most expensive mobile devices.
No, absolutely.
Competing directly against nice laptops for how much chunk it's going to take out of your wallet.
I would argue it's more expensive than some of those.
Some really nice laptops.
Yeah.
Especially if you start shopping some of them used. But the flip side of that to me, I feel like the OnePlus Open is a better phone, just traditional communicator phone.
Absolutely.
And I feel it's the better multimedia, entertainment, and content creation device.
Yeah.
So we're trying to now silo. I feel like we're getting to that point, just like I've been saying with phones. You have communicator phones and productivity phones and gaming phones. A phone is not one thing.
No.
I feel like now we're starting to see the realization of that with foldables. I would not recommend both devices to the same person.
No, now we're able to basically dive down to more specifically like what do you need to do, what are your needs out of a foldable, and tailor that and marry that to the right selection.
Sure.
If I had to go sit down and look at both of these devices, I feel like Samsung on the software side, I mean, on top of Dex that we talk about Dex, there's also GoodLock. GoodLock with some of the optimizations that they have, it's kind of like little mods.
Yeah.
We have a lot more development in that manner in what they're offering.
There's been a lot more interest in people adding to the Samsung experience.
And for me, although creation of content on this device is great when you're using the main sensor, it drops dramatically when you start leveraging.
It's not as flexible.
It isn't as flexible, and I think that's where OnePlus kind of jumps in very well. We have the design that's very nice and I'm going to say thin. It is thinner, lighter.
Sure.
Wider in a more normal form factor, making it so that, again, it fits the two experiences. You can be, all day long, never have to open it, and then when you need it, boom, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's there at the level that you want. I mean, choosing to go with 16 gig with 512, out of the box, there is no 256 model.
Sure.
I feel like was the right decision.
And it simplifies manufacturing, and it helps us arrive at that lower price.
But it also kind of gears towards giving you the best that OnePlus wants to offer.
Yeah.
Where Samsung's giving you the opportunity to go save a little money, but not realizing that why you should go with the bigger storage, why you need to have larger storage to be able to put files and have things kind of go out. But
we're just going to turn that back on.
No, I know it happens all the time. But yeah, I agree with you. I feel like it's a different story, but it's nice to see competition because.
I could have sworn I had the screensaver on for longer than that. I don't like leaving videos off with whatever phone's right for you. Because I like being able to say, hey, there should be a conclusion, or if you're really saying that this is a comparison, but I kind of felt this wasn't a comparison. I don't feel, with so few options out on the market, one, folding mini tablets that turn into kind of awkward double thick phones is still so new. This is the best version that I've seen of it yet, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It still kind of feels like a beta test. There is a very narrow audience that I feel comfortable saying you should totally take this for a drive as your main daily driver phone. It still needs some of that evolution. This year feels like that conversation has opened up a little.
Yeah.
And now that we've had some more competitive options and different form factors, do you feel more comfortable sort of expanding the range of people that you would recommend some of these devices to?
No, absolutely. I think prior to some of the options we had this year, even with the Fold, with the Pixel Fold, it wasn't until we started seeing that, and obviously, as I was talking to my brother, I was this is obviously before the launch of the Fold, or even, the Open, explaining to him the different options and different solutions that we're looking to get to solve. Obviously, this was rumored at the time, and what I was primarily kind of driving the conversation was...
They were like trickling little bits of information, like, I can't tell anyone what I know that's coming out.
So part of those, when I kind of structured the conversation with them, is primarily on the Z Fold 4 and the Z Fold 5, but also on the Pixel Fold. The reason behind that is it was available, it was something I can point to, and I can also point them in place, hey, go down to Best Buy and check it out.
Sure.
You can definitely, put finger to the screen.
That's a huge problem for OnePlus, is not having that same retail conversation.
And we used to have that. I'm hoping this starts changing the conversation a little bit. But with that being there, I let him, I told him, I said, you got to be able to try it.
So if OnePlus, if you're listening, what I would recommend is buying a couple little mini kiosks and then just traveling roadshow to Best Buys.
Yeah. Get people
or something to lease out or hit malls.
They do pop-ups I think on the East Coast every once in a while.
But we
never get them on our side.
This is not going to be a part of the consistent conversation for consumers because they don't. The carrier store is the first barrier that consumers have to go through, and unfortunately,
Best Buy and a carrier store. I mean, I think Best Buy is a better choice, but yeah.
I know why Oppo is sort of distancing themselves from that previous version of OnePlus. And they're working back from some of those carrier partnerships that they had in the past. But that also means you have to find other opportunities to go out and reach people, which is definitely not a problem for Samsung.
No,
Samsung has their own experiences free of the carrier store to also reinforce their messaging.
It is. And I think as time goes on, I'm hoping we'll have more choices and more options. We have 3 players this year where we had 1 last year. So already 2023, the 3 players, has been a great camera experience for us.
Who do you think needs to be in there next? I have an idea on who I think should do this next.
I feel like you're going to say Lenovo, or basically Moto, but yeah.
Lenovo Moto. Yeah, totally.
No. I mean,
they already have like the laptop. They need to have a folding mini tablet that turns into an awkward double thick phone.
Make a mini Yoga and call it a Moto Fold. Hey. Yoga. Moto, if you're watching.
Lenovo Moto Yoga.
That doesn't roll, but yes. I'll go with that.
We need to end this now. TK, thanks for dropping by, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This was one of the main conversations I wanted to start wrapping the year up with.
Yeah, no.
Is I've been very anxious and very critical of folding plastic display devices, and this year I've started coming out of my shell a little bit that I think they are improving to a more recommendable.
Absolutely. There's so much, and again, keep in mind, this is purely in the US market. There's so many more
Oh,
conversations
for
you
sure.
can have.
And with Xiaomi and
outside
Huawei and
and
Honor.
Honor.
And,
Yeah, they're like beyond the concept.
yeah,
but,
yeah. We're so far behind here in North America. It's not even funny.
We'll
But
take our wins when we get.
we are going to continue this conversation.
Absolutely.
So make sure you also head over to TK Bay's channel, where we're going to have a similar kind of conversation about Google strategy, looking at OnePlus Open and Pixel Fold, probably also mentioning a little Samsung in there too, because you gotta. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in, for sharing these conversations and subscribing to both of our channels. If you enjoyed this, or if you have any questions, make sure you hit those comments underneath. And also, you know, maybe smash some bell icons.
Absolutely.
That's a thing. That
so you always know whenever we have new videos, and check out the podcast. We do a podcast every week.
Together.
We get to chat.
All of the support lately has been absolutely fantastic. Those of you who are doing all those things that we just said, or if you're finding those opportunities to financially support your favorite creators, or if you're joining the list of names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon. That's patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. We're both around all the social medias. I'll make sure links are below. I'm mostly these days on the Mastodons. Where you hanging out?
I'm trying to get back into it, but it's primarily basically X and Instagram, and it's I do jump on at Mastodon.
Basically Instagram. Let's not do that Twitter thing.
For the most part, it basically is Instagram. Twitter is unfortunately, it's a weird
so send TK more reasons why he should hang out on Mastodon.
Absolutely.
And we'll get him back over there. But we'll catch you all on the next video.
I so wanted to say BAM right there, but I was like, I'm not taking that away from you. That is your
thing.
It is your thing.
That's the thing I do.